Gale Crater, Mars. August 6th, 2012. The Curiosity lands on the Martian surface to evaluate the suitability of the planet for human exploration. The one-ton rover will find signs of surface water, a key element for sustaining life.
I think one of the very fascinating things from a biology point of view is, let's say Mars, for a period in its history, was similar enough to Earth that life could start to evolve. You could ask the question, how far did it make it? What happened historically on Mars? When did it start to, say, lose an atmosphere? When was it not able to sustain it anymore? And we can learn a lot about the processes on Earth that were successful by, I think, comparing it to how far, if at all, did life get on Mars and where did it fail?
But is it possible, as some ancient astronaut theorists believe, that Curiosity's mission may also reveal evidence that the mysterious beings known as the Anunnaki also once inhabited Mars?
Zecharia Sitchin theorized that the Anunnaki were coming from this planet Nibiru, and that Mars was like a way station for them to come from Nibiru to Mars and then to Earth. So you would think that if this is the case, that on Mars we would find some kind of traces of this Anunnaki civilization there. Are we going to find pyramids, giant dolmens, huge constructions on Mars, just like we have here on Earth? I suspect we will.
If an extraterrestrial presence on Mars can be found, might a global awareness of our own Anunnaki ancestry also be possible? According to author and Sumerian researcher Zecharia Sitchin, Nibiru, the home of the Anunnaki, is on an elliptical path that brings the planet into our orbit every 3,450 years. And the next visit is projected to be in the year 2900.
Zecharia wrote in the book of the End of Days about some of the prophecy of the return. Next time Nibiru comes around, there should be another appearance of Anunnaki. Some of the Anunnaki may be really excited and happy to see what developed and what we have become. Some may be upset that we've gone too far. Maybe we've overstepped our bounds. They may pass judgment on us, and it could be good or it could be bad.
The ancient Egyptians spoke of the duat, which was basically the crossing between this and another world. And Nibiru was the Sumerian equivalent of that. And it is a realm which exists both in this space, but also somewhere else. It is basically a bridge, a territory, whereby human beings can go from here in life on Earth to the realm of the gods.
According to Sitchin's interpretation of the Sumerian texts, Nibiru also played a major role in the cataclysmic creation of Earth and the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. If true, might a similar change be in store the next time we come in contact with the Anunnaki?
Human reunions with the Anunnaki, whenever they take place, almost always result in the same thing: the stimulation of human evolution. The Anunnaki enter into human culture and consciousness, bringing wisdom, knowledge, and often technology. So when we see a mass return of the Anunnaki, based upon the past, we can expect that we will once again see new technology, new wisdom, and new ideas being seeded into human consciousness.
When we look at the story of the Anunnaki and their involvement in the Sumerian culture, we have to understand that this is potentially a legacy of information in looking at humanity's record to interpret where we really do come from.
There is one common denominator in all of these stories of extraterrestrials visiting us in a remote past, and that is their promise of a return. How can we prepare for this return of those extraterrestrials in the future? It's very simple. Accept the idea that we are not alone in the universe, number one, and number two, that they were here in the past, they will return in the future, and that, hey, it's okay.
Nepal, 2007. Here, in a remote area of the Himalayan mountain range, researchers scale a cliff crumbling from erosion in order to explore one of the world's greatest archaeological mysteries, the sky caves of the ancient kingdom of Mustang. There are over 10,000 of these man-made caves tunneled all around the Mustang region. Many have yet to be explored. Entry is not only dangerous, but nearly impossible, even with modern climbing equipment.
The caves of Mustang are absolutely amazing because they're in a very fragile, friable rock. That is, it breaks off very easily. It's very hard to scale to try to get up to them. These caves appear to be human carved, to be cut out by humans. No one really knows who carved these caves initially because they seem to go back to such a very, very early period.
Hidden inside, researchers find art, artifacts, and religious texts dating back to at least the 1400s, and some much, much older. Among the most stunning of the discoveries is a mural composed of 55 panels depicting scenes from the life of the spiritual leader, Buddha.
They have found images of Buddhas, various life scenes of the Buddha. So perhaps it was used for a ritual purpose, perhaps used as a meditation purpose. We do not know why particularly Buddhist deities have been painted in some of these caves.
But how and why did this unknown ancient civilization scale nearly 155 feet of sheer vertical rock wall to create these caverns in the mountainside? And why did they leave behind depictions of the life of Buddha? Mankind has been drawn to mountains for centuries. Across ancient civilizations, the world's highest peaks were often viewed as sacred and home to all-powerful gods. But why do so many different cultures throughout history share this belief that mountains have a divine connection?
Mountains have fascinated people all over the world for thousands and thousands of years. They seem to be a way to ascend to the heavens or to get as close to the heavens as we can here on this planet. In many mythologies, they were imagined as the dwelling place of the gods.
The idea that the mountains would be the homes of the gods shows up in Norse tradition, in India, in Japan, all over. The ruler, the god, the great power would want to have the view from above. This is transcendence. This is getting the big picture. So we imagine that there's a kind of control tower, control center up in the mountains that helps the gods rule wisely from above.
They are the closest points to the sky and the world that exists up there, which makes them the perfect place of communication between this world and the next. The gods are said to use them when they come down. They are places of otherworldly activity.
Southeastern Turkey. 7,000 feet high atop a barren mountain called Nemrut Dagi lie the ruins of the lost kingdom of Kamageni. Here, in 62 BC, a mysterious royal sanctuary was built by King Antiochus I. Colossal statues were created of lions and eagles, and Persian and Greek gods, as well as 2 massive sculptures of the king himself.
Now, what Antiochus was trying to do was to produce a synthesis, a new version of the old religions. And what he basically did was to take the Persian gods and put them into Greek dress. So you've got a synthesis happening of the Persian gods with their Greek equivalents.
The reason he built a colossal statue of himself among the gods was, I guess, a presumption on his part that he would indeed ascend to heaven and eventually be among them.
The conical peak was the highest point in the kingdom of King Antiochus. Measuring 150 feet high and 500 feet wide, it is man-made with countless small limestone rocks and was said to be the location of the king's royal tomb. Researchers believe the memorial was originally built as 2 large plazas. The one on the east side was used to celebrate the birthday of King Antiochus. The one on the west side was used to commemorate the day in 62 BC, when Antiochus became the leader of a secret society.
I think it's meant to symbolize Mount Olympus, the home of the gods. Because you've got the gods seated round it, and now you've got a peak above them. I think this is all really symbolic. It's a stage for carrying out certain rituals and performances.
And he also shows himself in the relief stele shaking hands to all the gods, as if the gods recognize him as one of their own and are welcoming him into heaven.
Mysteriously, both the site and the kingdom were abandoned in the 1st century AD. And so far, the king's legendary burial chamber has never been found. But another question still remains. Just why did King Antiochus build this mysterious and massive monumental sanctuary? According to researchers, evidence found at Nemrut Dagi suggests the king had a profound interest in and understanding of star sciences.
One example of the advanced knowledge of astronomy that they had is actually the lion horoscope, which gives us a very precise date. We know that the position of the stars in the lion's body fits with the positions of stars of Leo given in a book of Eratosthenes, who was a Greek astronomer from Alexandria who wrote a book about the stars.
The arrangement of stars on the lion horoscope represented the constellation of Leo as seen in the sky in July 62 BC, a configuration that wouldn't be visible again for 25,000 years. Further evidence of the exceptional knowledge of the stars was found in a nearby shaft that Antiochus built into the mountain.
The shaft runs into the mountainside there at an angle of 35 degrees to the horizontal, and it's about 150 meters long, and there's nothing at the bottom.
Computer analysis reveals that on 2 days of the year, the sun's rays would illuminate the bottom of the shaft. Once when in line with the constellation of Leo, and once when in line with Orion.
Now that is a very interesting point in the sky because it's a pathway of the sun crosses over the Milky Way, our galaxy. And that, to the ancient world, was known as the gate of heaven. And there were 2 of these, one where they crossed in the north and the other where they crossed in the south. There were 2 gates to heaven. So we can understand that that gateway would be where the soul of the king is going back to heaven through Heaven's Gate.
Given the fact that neither Antiochus's tomb or remains have been found, is it possible that the king actually journeyed to the stars through a heavenly gate, as ancient astronaut theorists contend? On July 20th, 1969, the Apollo 11 mission reached its destination. And two men, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, actually walked on the moon.
They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar surface. Up now. Beautiful, just beautiful.
It was the first time in history that beings left their home and traveled through space to an alien planet. Or was it? Were we really the first creatures in the universe capable of traveling to another world? Given the vastness of the universe and the billions of years that it took to create our galaxy, is it so hard to imagine that such a thing might have happened before, perhaps thousands of times, and over the course of millions of years?
The ancient alien astronaut theory presupposes that thousands and thousands of years ago, even before recorded history, Earth was visited by astronauts from another world.
But if alien beings did in fact travel to Earth, why? Did they come to explore, to plunder, to study, to hunt, or to breed? When Armstrong and Aldrin explored their incredible surroundings, they found the moon a barren landscape. It seemed to offer little more than a lifeless oasis of rocks and dust. But in 1986, further testing determined that the lunar landscape actually contains a high amount of helium-3, an extremely powerful, non-polluting, non-radioactive fuel source. Experts estimate that a single space shuttle filled with this material could satisfy all the energy needs in the United States for an entire year. Think of it. Armadas of spaceships, mining the moon and other planets for natural resources. Could this help explain why Earth might have served as a destination for travelers from other worlds?
We'd go out there with robot mining crews and eventually human mining crews, mine those planets, extract the ore, ships would come, they'd take the ore and bring them back. Well, if we would do it, why wouldn't extraterrestrials?
But if alien excavators did come to Earth, perhaps thousands of years ago, wouldn't there be evidence? Here, in what is now known as Iraq, lies what is commonly regarded by historians and archaeologists as the cradle of civilization. Between 3500 and 1900 BC, the fertile area between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers was the home of the Sumerian people.
The Sumerians were one of the first cultures that built actual cities with streets and a street grid, like almost like New York City, where you have, a square street grid. They invented cobblestones. They had a sewage system. They were taught in agriculture.
The Sumerians also invented the first known writing system by using cuneiform script on clay tablets. In the 19th century, archaeologists exploring the ancient ruins of Nineveh discovered 22,000 of these clay tablets. When they were later translated, the texts described many stories similar to those found in the Judeo-Christian Bible.
Virtually every story that's in Genesis, the flood story, Adam and Eve story, they all have precedence with the ancient Sumerians.
In 1976, author Zecharia Sitchin published his own translations of the Sumerian texts in a series of books called The Earth Chronicles. According to Sitchin, the clay tablets describe an alien race known as the Anunnaki, who came to Earth to mine gold.
Zecharia Sitchin has essentially suggested that the reason why we were visited in the remote past is because the ancient astronauts' home planet needed gold for their atmosphere, and that their gold content in the atmosphere was depleting. So they came to Earth in order to mine gold and bring it back to their home planet.